My name is Joe Owen. I'm an expert on leadership. I write about it, I talk about it, and I even do it. In this programme, I'm going to help a head teacher with the sort of leadership challenge many schools face. Corby Community College was created to replace 2 failing schools, but soon ended up in special measures itself. Head teacher Pamela Hutchinson was brought in to sort things out. She and the school have made great progress, but now they face an even bigger challenge. The college is going to be shut down and replaced by a brand new city academy. This could be tough. Her staff have been through big change before. Morale dropped, stress rose, and no one wants to see history repeat itself.
People are starting to get nervous.
You get a lot of rumours.
You'll always get a certain percentage of people that are very, very worried about it. Nobody from the head down knows whether they've got a job in the academy or not.
This is where we find out what happens when Planet Business and Planet Education collide. Leaders love change. To them it means progress. But normal human beings hate change. To them it means fear, uncertainty and doubt. Becoming an academy may be a good thing in the long term, but in the short term, the journey can easily become a nightmare. I've heard there are plenty of potential challenges here. Student achievement, staff stress, becoming an academy. So the first problem is to find out what the problem really is. As a business person, how am I meant to know that? Well, to find out, I'm going to use the ultimate secret of all great leaders, which is that they have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Oh, and they use them in that proportion.
Welcome to Corby Community College.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Come along to my office.
Please, yeah. So, why do you want to become an academy?
Well, there are a number of reasons for that. If the government decides that there's going to be an academy, then there's going to be an academy. And you can either have things done to you, in my view, or you can become an active participant in it. But the hard part is the part that comes now, where we have to look at the staffing for the academy.
And how are the staff reacting to this?
The staff have reacted very positively, but there still is that gap between the staffing structure at Corby Community College and the staffing structure and needs of the academy.
What's the nature of that?
Right.
Gap?
There will be interviews, and I don't know yet exactly what posts will be interviewed for or what that procedure will take. And one of the things for us is that as a leadership team, we're used to having charge of what happens in our school. This is out with our control because it's the sponsors who have responsibility for that.
Have you been appointed as the head teacher for the academy? So you don't know yourself what your position will be?
The appointment of the head teacher will be made, or the principal will be made September, October of this coming term.
I'm just thinking about this from a business perspective, where none of you know whether you're going to have any jobs or not. You don't know, you're not going to have control over the ethos, over the culture. I mean, this, if it was a business, would be a recipe for mass stress. Now, it may be that all teachers are adrenaline junkies and love this stuff. So, what's going on here? Are they actually enjoying this, or are they sort of going, or is there actually some private pain going on here as well?
No, I think undoubtedly there's private pain, which is why we're anxious to bring that to the fore, to look at honestly how we can support that and move it forward. Unless we get that seamless transfer, and unless we're planning now what it's going to look like here for the next 2 years, and what that step is going to be into the academy, then it will be a disaster. And nobody wants that to happen, because it's already happened to children and staff here.
Well, that was very useful. I got some wonderful views from the head teacher at the top of the mountain. What we now need to do is get some views from other people on other parts of the mountain. The obvious place to start is, of course, the staff room. But asking awkward questions doesn't always give you honest answers. So what's with this academy stuff? He says subtly, cutting to the chase. You're leaving in 3 weeks, that's easy.
You probably shouldn't be talking to us, should you, really?
Oh, good. That's right, then.
Please don't show this to the headmistress.
Oh, sorry.
Are you, looking forward to it?
It's going to be a fantastic opportunity for the children.
I want to hear the truth now.
I couldn't possibly comment.
It's like moving house.
Yeah.
You know, you don't expect everything to be hunky-dory straight away. You've got to, oh, I don't like the settee there, let's put it there instead.
Are you, looking forward to it?
I am, yes. The transition, I think, well, we have to sort it out, but
Okay. I've obviously hit a nerve, but to get anyone to really open up, I need to see them on their own. Is this going to be a fresh start all over again, or is it going to be different? How do you see that?
I'll be really, really honest with you. I don't know an awful lot about academies. I mean, we've been told, yes, the school's become an academy, blah-de-blah, but a lot of members of staff, and I have to say, including me, you know, are of the belief that if it's best for the students, then that's fine.
I think it's the next positive step for the school, to be honest. I think the school's got to move on. We're getting bigger, the town's getting bigger. The school needs to develop and the town needs to develop.
To me, I don't really know what my role is going to be, actually. Will they need me?
We don't have that much information. We're still at the early stages, and it's sort of you get a lot of rumours.
At the end of the day, it's just job security, knowing that once this school closes, we'll all be guaranteed a job to move up to. So that's the only thing I'm really worried about.
People are starting to get nervous.
Do any members of staff know whether they'll have jobs in the academy at this point?
That's something I'm not really quite sure about.
Nobody from the head down knows whether they've got a job in the academy or not.
If they're not comfortable about change, then perhaps those people need to be looking for change elsewhere and moving into a different school, a different environment that may be more established, as opposed to the exciting opportunities that an academy will obviously open.
I personally, I suppose, I'm a little bit sorry that we're going to lose the school that we've got at the moment because we've worked so hard to get it where it is now. And all of a sudden it's going to die at the age of 6 or 7 or whatever it is, you know, and I think that's a bit of a shame.
My suspicion is that this is a school which is about to enter the Valley of Death. The question is, does the head teacher know this? There's only one way to find out. It was actually quite interesting going around. Half of the conversations were incredibly loyal and diligent conversations. And then the other half of the conversations were like the unofficial answer, which was, well, actually, we don't know what's going on and we don't even know if we have a job. And it's like, ouch. What normally happens, and actually I'll just try this if I may, is change. A lot of people talk about it as very rational, about curriculums and policies and buildings and structures. Change isn't about that. Change is about people, okay? And people, for better or worse, are emotional. And if I look at what happens in change in most organisations, if this is time, okay, and this is people's enthusiasm for change, okay, where they're either very enthusiastic or very unenthusiastic. And I just want you to think about where you are at the moment, in that what we normally see is if people start moderately enthused about life, change starts and it's like, oh, something exciting is going to happen. So enthusiasm goes up, okay? But then at some point it's like, oh, change is going to happen, but actually there are quite a lot of nasty decisions to be made, and actually I don't know what's going to happen to me, and do I have the skills to succeed, and do I even have a job, and who am I going to be reporting to, and ouch, this looks really horrible, okay? And around here you've got a valley of death, okay, which actually only begins to get resolved when all those questions start getting answered about, yes, I can see there is a future, I see it's an exciting future, I know what's going to happen, and I know I have a role in that future, and actually that future is better than the present, okay? And hopefully you move off into a highly re-enthused, re-energised and excited organisation and staff. Now, the good news for you in all of this is, what's the good news as you're staring into the valley of death? It's like this is an exercise in optimism, isn't it? Well, the good news is that actually other people have been through this journey. That's the good news. So you know that there is a predictable sequence of events that you're going to have to go through. And other people have made mistakes on that journey, and other people have actually found more successful paths through that journey. And I guess the question is, would you like to see some of those people who've been through that journey?
Absolutely.
Okay. And actually, you're not in the valley of death until you go home one evening and you just go, this is the worst I have ever seen. Right? When you just go, I cannot believe it is so bad. Then you're in the valley of death, and actually that's the cathartic moment. That's the cathartic moment for you and the staff. So don't look forward to it, but just recognise it when you get there. Pamela is setting out on a tough journey. Leading any organisation through such massive change involves a lot of communication. But she's not the first person to face this sort of challenge. It will help Pamela greatly to meet someone who's been through a similar change journey. Sarah Talbot-Williams successfully led her team through a valley of death when charities Click and Sargent decided to merge. They created one organisation to support children with cancer and their families all over the UK. Pamela? I'm taking Pamela to their London office to meet Sarah and to find out how she and her team made it through the valley of death.
Nice to meet you. Welcome to Click Sargent.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Jim.
Right.
Come this way.
I think the absolute core to the merger was that Click and Sargent both provided services to families. So there were business reasons, but the real reason that made everyone all the way through the merger, you kept reminding them again and again and again, it was that kind of compelling argument that actually this was for the families and for the young people, for the children.
And how did you manage during that time not to lose your best people?
I think you made sure that the best people were involved in the transition groups. So even though their situation was, for some of them, was quite uncertain, we got them involved in planning for the future. We drew together that middle management because they are actually the engine of the organisation, and it's trying to get them to be the ambassadors and trying to get them to kind of highlight to the staff they felt were very important to maintain, to actually work with them and talk to them.
Did you have a particular way that you found worked with your senior managers?
I think it was terribly difficult because the one area where you knew there were two people for one job was amongst the senior managers. I think the best thing that happened was that it was dealt with very quickly, and if anything was dealt with quickly, nothing could go on until you knew who was going to be the director of services or who was going to be the director of fundraising. But we had a lot of different issues. There's two large groups of staff. There was Click versus Sargent, and there was also kind of fundraising versus services, which is a natural charity thing.
I'd just be interested a bit more to explore those tensions, and I'm thinking about things you mentioned about the leadership team and quick appointments and so forth, and whether in fact your chief exec was from one of those two existing organisations.
It was a very difficult situation to have a merger of equals. It was painful. We now have a new chief executive and we now have a new chairman, and I think that starts the sense of the new, and so we've kind of been through that change and then moving on to the new.
And I just wondered if there were some examples of things where you felt you got it right and things where you felt in retrospect actually we should just have done that or we shouldn't have done that.
I think most probably there are times when you don't bite the bullet on personnel issues sometimes, and there'll be certain staff that it might have been easier to have gone for a different, potentially a leaner answer to a certain department or a certain situation.
You've given some hints already, but how did people actually get to talk about and resolve?
Well, I think there are a number. I mean, most
issues actually come up through the staff room. They come up through the informal ways. If people don't want to hear the message, then they don't think the communication is good, and it's an inevitable thing. But you've got to keep reiterating things, and I think repetition is not a bad thing, it's actually a very good thing. And you just say it in slightly different ways, but you just keep on repeating.
I was actually picking out four themes. One is you were creating a compelling vision about why this change is important and relevant, in particular for the children. Secondly, I think you were trying to resolve the uncertainty that people always feel in a situation like this by trying to make as many decisions as quickly and as clearly as possible. And third, you're trying to give people a sense of control over their own destiny. And maybe the fourth and most important theme underlying all of that is the whole theme of communications, just endless communications.
Could I just ask you just one last question, which is, if you were sitting now, as I am, with 2 years to go, and the difficult 2 years where we want to keep staff informed and involved, I just wondered whether there was anything that you would say, actually, that could be the icing on the cake, that could be the thing that just makes it better and different for staff and youngsters.
I think you've got to make people feel that they want to be part of the future.
Oh, that's very helpful.
And we gave people an extra day off at Christmas, but which seemed to go down quite well.
Yes.
Radical change always looks better from the top of the mountain. At the top, you're in control, but the frontline view is critical.
I was about ready to leave, actually, and then the merger was announced. The opportunity to work within the communications department through a merger and a rebrand of a charity was something I just thought was a fantastic opportunity to be part of.
What do you think people's biggest frustration was, and do you have any ideas about how I could, in the way that I set up my system, help to overcome that?
I think there's always going to be a tension point between people wanting to know and people not wanting anything to change. It's hard because you know there's going to be a natural fallout or lots of changes, a lot of people leaving for different reasons, and just knowing that but not knowing when it's going to happen is just hard.
Ross and Peela have given Pamela some good advice. People who stay through a difficult transition acquire skills that make them very attractive to future employers. This should be as true of schools as it is of business. It's time to find out what Pamela has learned.
I think one of the really important things that came out of that for me is that it's not about taking it personally, it's not about feeling you've done a bad job, it's about knowing that is just how it is. The second thing, and I'm not sure how I'm going to do this yet, I need to reflect on it, is about making sure that I and my leadership team are very available to people, but in an active way. So we're being active about it rather than expecting the staff to be active about it.
Pamela has heard that the key to leading a staff through change is communication, and that repetition is not a bad thing. On the day before the end of the holidays, Pamela and her senior leadership team have decided to throw a barbecue for all 120 staff. This is a great idea. Build team spirit, encourage discussion, and find out what staff really think of the journey to becoming an academy. A good leader will always develop staff by giving them tasks which they're only 60% ready for.
I've never ever tried one of these before in my life. Keep children and pets at a distance. No, it's all going to work. It'll be perfect.
But there is often a vast chasm between theory and practice.
You've got fruit salad, coleslaw, avocado and tomato, and green, and sausages.
But feeding 120 staff with disposable barbecues, that involves some tricky timing. Before they can tuck into the food, she's gathered them in the hall for a little presentation called From Now to Academy. This is a great opportunity for Pamela to share some of the learning from ClickSargent and to give her staff a proper idea of the way forward. The question is, are they ready for it? One of the great problems with speeches is that when you're talking, you're not listening, and she needs to find out what her staff really think.
Good afternoon, everybody. If I could just have your attention so that we can get out to the barbecue that Steve and the rest of the leadership team are busy organising for us at the minute.
They're going to work out which end we're going to light.
So I know that many of you were disappointed that you didn't get to see any of my holiday snaps yesterday. So not to leave you in that disappointed state, I've managed, surprisingly, just to intertwine them in this afternoon's presentation.
Are they engaged in her holiday snaps?
It seemed to me that was a good picture for two reasons. One, because that's the purpose. That's preparation actually allows you to get close enough to see these wonderful creatures.
One.
I think, and I think we would all recognise it, that this is a real process of self-discovery. It gives us the opportunity of deciding whether actually this particular direction is the direction that we want to go in.
We might be cooking. We might be cooking from a distance. It's amazing how quickly that temperature's got up, though, on the far side there.
By December, as I said before the holidays, we hope that the appointment of the head teacher will have been made and that person will then be in post probably at Easter time, and that's for the new academy.
This is great. She's giving them information they really need to hear.
So thank you very much.
Right, guys, loads of sausages going. Mr. Ellis tells me that's what they are. Sausages over there somewhere.
It's 6 weeks since we last met, and I've invited myself back to Corby to see how Pamela and her staff are doing on their journey through the Valley of Death. Let's start with the really important stuff. How was the barbecue?
The barbecue was excellent. It turned out to be a really good start to the school year.
And what happened to the tables?
Well, the barbecues were a little hotter than we had anticipated, so despite the fact that we had to put boards between them and the tables, the heat of the barbecue still managed to melt the tables.
So this is the Corby's answer to the Viking funeral, is it?
It is, absolutely, yes.
The Viking barbecue burned the tables at the same time. What's the mood amongst the staff?
So far, everybody wants to be involved in what's happening and certainly in the preparation and so forth. If there's anything out there to know, they know it, even if it's incomplete.
Where are staff on that roller coaster at the moment, do you think?
To recognise that going down into the depth is part of the process was very helpful to us. But what we also recognised was that we might all be in the depths at different times. And therefore, one of the things that we could do as a staff was to help one another. And that's proved to be the case, I think. One of the things that I've been able to share with staff is that the decision on the principalship of the academy will be the first position to be decided.
So where does that leave you in terms of this roller coaster journey? At what stage of the journey are you on?
That's an interesting question. What I'll feel once that person has been appointed obviously depends on how that works. So at the minute I can stand back from it.
It's time to ask the staff how things have changed since my first visit.
As we were talking about at that time, there are troughs and peaks in everybody's mentality about where we're going. And I guess we've been up and down and probably on and up at the moment.
I think those that are running it and sort of moving things forward are conscious of the fact that they do need to keep staff involved and informed. Whether the information is actually what staff want to hear is another matter.
You worried you'll have a job?
Well, I think I'll have a job of some sort. Yeah.
I think a large number of staff, of which I'm a member, are actually probably going down the slippery slope a bit at the moment, really, because there's still a lot of unknowns and there's a lot of sort of discussion going on as to where people stand.
It's misty in my crystal ball. I'm still, you know, there are days when there's a clarity and the mist clears and I can see where I'm going, but there are other days when it all fogs up again.
For Pamela and her staff, the journey to the academy is going to be stressful, especially when their jobs may be on the line. There's no easy way out. She needs to reduce uncertainty, create clarity, make decisions, and give staff some control over events, if possible.
Joel came in and he talked to staff at the very beginning, and what he was able to articulate was what we were all feeling. But actually sometimes when you're too close to something, you can't quite see it. And in a way it gave each of us permission to feel like that, which made us feel better.
Pamela is about to enter the Valley of Death. Many people give up at this point, and that's disaster. It's only in the Valley of Death that people really engage, really change, and really make progress towards the green pastures beyond. Good leaders don't avoid the Valley of Death, they take their teams through it. Leadership takes courage.